Good evening and welcome to the Woodhaven Brownstown Board of Education regular meeting of Tuesday, August 23rd, called to order at 5:30 p.m.
Thanks.
Any individual wishing to address the Board of Education during this evening's meeting should complete a comment card located there by Mr. Belcher and provide it to Mrs. Aber. Mrs. Aber, will you please take roll?
Mrs. Paget,
Here.
Mrs. Burton Kelsey,
Here.
Mrs. Pimer,
Here.
Mrs. Berry,
Here.
Mr. Burke, Mr. Harris,
Here.
Mrs. Bauer Perry,
Here.
Mr. Greathead,
Here.
Mr. Satterfield,
Here.
Mr. Salah,
Here.
Mr. Roberts,
Here.
Mrs. Johnson Lemieux,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Belcher.
Wonderful, thank you. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence? Oh, we'll use the one in the back.
Yeah, we'll use.
One in the back there, sorry. Pledge allegiance. And to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible,
With liberty and justice for all.
Right. Thank you. Moving on to the approval of the agenda, the suggested motion is to approve the agenda as recommended. I will entertain a motion.
So moved. Support.
Motion by Barry, supported by Burton Kelsey. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the agenda as recommended signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Second item is hearing of the public. The Board of Education believes it's crucial to hear from our community on matters most important to them, and therefore we do provide the public two opportunities to address the board at its meetings. The first opportunity is now, and that is for items that are on tonight's agenda. The second opportunity is near the end of the meeting and is reserved for items that are not on the agenda. In both cases, the individual time limit is 5 minutes. It's important to note that while the board takes all questions and concerns from the public seriously, an immediate response should not be expected as we request time to process and research issues and ideas. Please know that district staff will always reply to you when necessary in an appropriate timeframe. Again, all individuals wishing to address the Board of Education during either session should complete a comment card and provide it to Mrs. Aber. Mrs. Aber, do we have any at this time? No. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 3, the consent agenda. The suggested motion is to approve the consent agenda as recommended. I will entertain a motion.
So moved. Support.
Motion by Burton Kelsey, supported by Barry. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as recommended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This time I'll turn the meeting over to Mark.
Okay, thank you. First item is personnel recommendations. We have 3 personnel recommendations this evening in the areas of professional staff, support staff, and Schedule B. Before getting to those recommendations, I just wanted to note the unprecedented level of hiring that the school district is doing at this time in the school year. It's 18 professional staff members, 11 support staff individuals, and 6 coaching positions that we're recommending for this evening. While I think that number, there are a number of reasons for that. There are 2 main reasons that I really want to highlight. One of them being the interest in working in the Woodhaven Brownstown School District, and the what I believe to be the support from our current staff, and the desire to be in a district such as the Woodhaven Brownstown School District. But more importantly, it speaks to the support that the Board of Education has placed in supporting our students. A number of these positions are new positions, such as counseling positions. The school district's adding 3 counselors at a time to support our students. A number of positions, while not specifically intervention style positions, most of our intervention positions that the Board of Education hired for this coming school year were filled by experienced existing staff members, which then requires us to backfill that with classroom hires. The amount of support staff positions, again, reflective of the amount of support that this Board of Education has put towards the students of our school community. So thank you in advance to the Board of Education, not just in advance, but also thank you for that support, but thank you for your support of these recommendations this evening. So under professional staff, the suggested motions that the Board of Education approve the following employments, all effective August 24th, 2022, and beginning for the 22-23 school year as recommended. They are Christina Armbruster, Patrick Henry Middle School counselor, Morgan Barr, Patrick Henry Middle School social worker, Corey Buckner, Patrick Henry Middle School counselor, Lauren Carney, Bates Elementary School first grade, Lindsay Fowler, Gudith Elementary School special services interventionist, Brendan Holbird, Brownstown Middle School social studies and computers, Dana Hunter, Patrick Henry Middle School 8th grade English language arts, Christy Kusia, Waginka Elementary School special services resource room, Leanne Marentay, special services speech and language pathologist for TOTE, Elise Messmore, Patrick Henry Middle School 8th grade English language arts, Jillian O'Connell, Irving Elementary School 2nd grade, Sarah Paulus, Brownstown Middle School social studies, Caitlin Rule, special services TOTE, James Sayan, Yake Elementary School 5th grade, Amanda Sayer, Brownstown Middle School counselor, Isabel Slate, Woodhaven High School social studies, Alex Talley, Yake Elementary School 2nd grade, and Katie Wisser, Bates Elementary School media specialist.
Well, thank you for that. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Barry, supported by Heimer. Any discussion?
The only discussion I would have, and it may be premature, somebody will tell me it's premature, I'm sure, but I want to thank everybody here for all the hard work that you all did in getting us to this point where we're going to be able to hopefully approve all of these. I mean, the countless hours of interviews and resume reading and everything else that you guys do, most of you are in the room. I think it's just phenomenal, and I want to say thank you.
Yeah, and I think the statement that Mark made about being such a great district to work in, that's a testament to the current employees. So that's a statement that I think deserves to be reiterated. So, all right. I have a motion by Barry and supported by Pimer. If there's no other discussion, all in favor of approving the motion as recommended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Congratulations, yes. Without the use of notes, Mr. Roberts will introduce every new professional staff member.
With notes. Before I start, just to say thank you to all the administrators and teachers, and you'll see later in the staffing update just how many participated in interviews this summer, but upwards of 160 interviews to get us here. So it's a lot of time that people gave and a lot of people who didn't have to give this summer. So I appreciate it. But I'm excited about this new group of teachers who are going to join Woodhaven Brownstown School District. We asked them all a lot of questions, but I want to remind everybody just in 30 years from now, when you retire, you can stand in front of this board and say what you want said about you as an educator. And I hope that you get to make great memories and have great impact on kids starting tomorrow. Not tonight, tomorrow. So with that, I'll just ask you to stand up as I introduce you. Christina Armbruster, Patrick Henry Middle School counselor. She earned her BA from Eastern Michigan University and her master's in counseling in 2022. She completed her field-based experience at Woodhaven High School in September to December before earning a position with Trenton High School. And now we're bringing her back. Her mentor will be Betsy Kanagawa. Welcome. Morgan Barr, Patrick Henry Middle School social worker. I'm not sure, was Morgan here tonight? I do not see her. Will say that I'm super, we interviewed her earlier this year, and this is one of the things that we have great candidates that come forward, although she's not here tonight. I wasn't sure when we got a resignation about a week and a half ago that we'd get this position filled, but Mr. Salah and his team worked really hard. She's joined us from Romulus Schools, and we're excited to have her join us. Corey Buckner, Patrick Henry Middle School counselor. Mr. Buckner completed his master's in counseling from Spring Arbor University. He completed his bachelor's in psychology, also from Spring Arbor University. He was hired in the spring of 2021 as a counselor for Wilson Middle School in Wyandotte, following his internship with Patrick Henry Middle School, where he gets to return. And Mr. Buckner's mentor will be Kelsey Smith. Lauren Carney. there she is. You were hiding. Bates Elementary, first grade. Miss Carney returns to the classroom after spending this past year as a counselor with Groseal Schools. She has previous teaching experience in first grade and kindergarten with Leslie Public Schools. She earned her bachelor's from Grand Valley State University in elementary education with a language arts emphasis, and her master's in counseling from Spring Arbor University. And Miss Carney's mentor will be Miss Lane Farnar, who's here. I guess Betsy Kanagawa was here too. I should point that out. You were kind of hiding. So, Lindsay Fowler, interventionist at Goodith Elementary. Mrs. Fowler earned her bachelor's in elementary education from Eastern Michigan University and her master's in educational leadership, also from Eastern Michigan. For the past 5 years, she has been an academic interventionist with Lincoln Consolidated Schools, and Mrs. Fowler's mentor is here today, Don Walker. So thank you. Brendan Holbert, let's come in the back there. BMS Social Studies and Computers teacher. Mr. Holbert recently graduated from Wayne State University with a degree in secondary education with social studies. He completed his student teaching this past year at University Prep Art and Design in 6th grade social studies. And Mr. Holbert's mentor will be Joe Robinson. So excited. Dana Hunter. There she is. Patrick Henry Middle School 8th grade ELA. Miss Hunter has been a 5th grade teacher with Tipton Academy since 2015. As part of her role at Tipton, she served as the assistant athletic director and middle school volleyball coach. She earned her bachelor's in language arts and elementary education and her master's in curriculum and instruction, both from CMU, and her mentor will be Amanda Mosley. Page 1 of 8. Christy Cusia. Wagink Elementary Resource Room. Mrs. Cusia has been with Riverview Schools since 2013 as a resource room teacher and teacher consultant. She was awarded the Riverview Teacher of the Year Award in 2021 and 22. She earned a BA in elementary education from Michigan State University and her master's in learning disabilities from U of M Dearborn. And her mentor will be Julie Dutton. Leanne Marente. And I hope I said that right. All right. Poet, speech, and language pathologist. Ms. Marente earned her BA in psychology, cognition, and neurosciences from the University of Michigan. That is hard just to say. Yeah. She then completed her master's in communication sciences and disorders from Wayne State University. Since 2017, she has been with Beaumont Children's Center for Exceptional Families as a speech and language pathologist, and her mentor will be Erin Birdziak. Elise Messmore. Patrick Henry Middle School 8th grade ELA. Ms. Messmore is returning to Michigan after spending the past 7 years as a high school ELA teacher in Florida. Prior to moving to Florida, she earned her BA from Eastern Michigan University in secondary education, language and literature, and writing. She completed her student teaching at Brownstown Middle School, where I found out Mr. Gerganis was the assistant principal. Her mentor will be Tina Sranowski. Jillian O'Connell. Irving Elementary 2nd grade. Ms. O'Connell graduated from Valparaiso University in May of 2022 with a bachelor's in education. As part of her degree program, she spent time almost every semester in a classroom setting. Helped her develop a knowledge well beyond her first year of teaching. When we interviewed her, I was surprised that you hadn't been teaching before. So she is relocating to the Downriver area, and we're excited that she can start her career with WBSD. And her mentor will be Julie Ostrowski. And Sarah Paulus. I did. Never mind. BMS Social Studies. Ms. Paulus joins us from Tumwater School District in the state of Washington. She has teaching experiences in the state of California, Hawaii, Georgia, and Washington, all part of being in the military life. And she's excited to put down permanent roots in Michigan. And her mentor will be Danielle Orloskis. Caitlin Rule, tote teacher. Ms. Rule earned her bachelor's from Madonna University in elementary education and her master's from the University of Arizona in educational policy. For the past year, she was a kindergarten teacher in Harper Woods, and prior to Harper Woods, she was a developmental kindergarten teacher in Riverview. And so her mentor will be Dawn Peters. James Sayan, Yake 5th grade. Mr. Sand earned his bachelor's in elementary education with a special education major from Eastern Michigan University. For the past 7 years, he has been teaching fifth grade at Tipton Academy, where he also served as the co-athletic director since 2019. Mr. Sayan completed his student teaching and special education at BMS and in second grade at Irving Elementary. And Mr. Sayan's mentor will be Mrs. Katie Snyder. Amanda Sayer, BMS counselor. Ms. Sayer completed her BA in Child Development from Central Michigan University and her Master's in Counseling from Oakland University. She completed her internship at Patrick Henry Middle School in December of 2018 and was quickly hired by Wyandotte Schools in February 2019, where she has been for the past 3 years. She returns back, and Mrs. Sayer's mentor will be Heather Setlock. Isabel Slate, Woodhaven High School, Social Studies. Is he here? Possibly not. So she's joined us from Central Michigan University, where she did her student teaching in Trenton this fall, and her mentor will be Taryn Johnson Lemieux. So. Alex Talley, there we go. Yake, second grade. Mrs. Talley graduated from Schoolcraft College in 2021 with a BA in elementary education with a minor in both English language arts and mathematics.
I think she'd disagree with you. Thank you.
Where did I put? Schoolcraft. And I didn't even have that written down here. So I just threw that in my head. It's not even written down. I'm just picking and choosing where you went to school. Fair enough. She graduated. She has a degree. She completed her student teaching in the fall of 2021 at Lindeman Elementary School in Allen Park. And in January 2022 until April this last year was a long-term sub at Yake Elementary. And her mentor will be Christine Roberts. So Katie Wisser, Bates halftime media specialist. Ms. Wisser has been a teacher at St. Francis Cabrini School since 2007. After earning her BA in education from Central Michigan University, she completed her master's in educational technology from U of M Dearborn in 2021, and her mentor will be Adrian Clements. And I believe that's all for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Special staff.
I want to thank all of the new teachers for being here this evening, their mentors for being here this evening. We look forward to many years of positive contributions here for the children of the Woodhaven Brownstown School District. So thank you and welcome aboard. Right. Next are support staff recommendations. The suggested motion is that the Board of Education approve the following employments, all effective 8/24/22 and beginning for the 22-23 school year as recommended. They are Kayla Chavez, WIPA Special Services Paraprofessional, Diane Justice, WIPA Special Services Paraprofessional, Abby Liberaki, WIPA Special Services Paraprofessional, Susan Lopez, WIPA Special Services Paraprofessional, Daryl Myrie, Woodhaven High School Security Monitor, Samantha Oliver, WIPA Special Services Paraprofessional, Brooke Pitt, BMS Security Monitor, Christy Rafen-Smith, BMS Counseling Class B Administrative Assistant, Kirsten Rohn, WIPA Special Services Paraprofessional, Robert Schaefer, Patrick Henry Middle School Security Monitor, and Zaria Williams, Woodhaven High School College Coach.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Support.
Motion by Burton Kelsey, supported by Barry. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the motion as recommended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Roberts?
All right. Again, I will ask if you stand. I see some of you, but I'm not sure all of you. Kayla Chavez, paraprofessional. She has spent the past several months as an in-home caregiver with Sigma Home Care, and where she's worked with clients ages 4 to 40. She has a BA in social work from Eastern Michigan University, which I think will come very handy.
Welcome aboard.
Kayla. Diane Justice. Let's see, Diane. Okay. Abby Liberaki. Hi, Abby. She earned her associates in business from Baker College, and she has worked at Bates as a lead lunch aide for over a year and is making the transition to a full-time WBSD employee. So good to have you.
Welcome.
Susan Lopez. Ms. Lopez has been a lunch aide at Yake Elementary for over the past year. Prior to moving to Sodexo, she was an EL facilitator for Wayne Risa, supporting English language learners, and she earned her associate's degree from Henry Ford College in Business. Jerome Myrie, see him in the back there. Mr. Myrie has a BA in graphic design from Saginaw Valley State University, and he's worked as a freelance graphic designer since 2012 and also for American International Academy as a graphic design instructor. He is our varsity girls cross country coach and our varsity boys track coach. And we've encouraged him to apply to be part of the regular day staff. And even though he said his dream job at WBSD is a graphic arts teacher. So we're excited to have you join us. Thank you. Samantha Oliver. Hey, Sam. Ms. Oliver returns to WBSD after working in the private sector as a workplace experience specialist with CBRE. Where she realized her passion is for working with children and not adults. So we're welcome to have her back. Brooke Pitt. There she is. BMS security monitor. Ms. Pitt has been a hall monitor and paraprofessional with Gibraltar Schools for the past year. Her prior experience was with Ford Motor Company as a skills trade electrician for 15 years before being at a stay-at-home mom to help raise her kids. So, excited. Christine Raffensmith. Said wrong. Not here. All right. Kirsten Ron. There. Ms. Ron has been working for Livonia Schools as a teaching assistant for the 2021-22 school year. Prior to that, she was a child care worker at Penn Trunk Center for Blind Children and a swim instructor at Aqua Tots. So, thank you. Robert Schaefer. Is Robert here? Do not see him. No. And I don't believe I saw Zaria here. Did not see her either. No, there's Zaria. Okay. That is everyone.
Welcome aboard, and thank you for being here to all of our newest members of our support staff here in the Woodhaven Brownstown School District. Next up is our Schedule C recommendations. The suggested motions that the Board of Education approve the following employments, all effective 8/24/22 and beginning with the 22-23 school year as recommended. They are Mary Banks, 6th and 7th grade sideline cheer coach, Michael Finley, 8th grade football assistant coach, Andrew Jameson, 7th grade football assistant coach, Jeremy Klotz, varsity hockey head coach, Gregory Scheffler, 7th grade football head coach, and Matthew Valerius, varsity hockey assistant coach.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Burton Kelsey, supported by Pimer. Any discussion? Hearing.
So for this year, we have an 8th grade and a 7th grade. We had 24 7th graders and 28 8th graders. So instead of having a $500 stipend, we'd have 2 teams.
Anything else? Okay. Hearing nothing further, all in favor of approving the motion as recommended signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, great. Mr. Roberts?
Mary Banks. Let's see her. No. Michael Finley is here. 8th grade football assistant. Mr. Finley has a passion for coaching youth. He moved to Woodhaven's basketball program this past year after spending years with Trenton's basketball program. He looks forward to join the football staff and helping to develop some consistency within the program at the middle school level.
Great.
Andrew Jameson. There you are. 7th grade football assistant coach. Mr. Jameson looking forward to getting into coaching. As a Woodhaven resident and a former high school football player, he shared the values he learned in sports he brings to him into his current career as a prototype vehicle specialist with Ford, and he hopes to share some of those same lessons with future students. Jeremy Klotz is here, varsity hockey head coach. Ooh. Almost made it through. 2 mistakes, not bad. Mr. Klotz was the assistant hockey coach at Woodhaven for 3 years before moving over as the head coach at Carlson High School for 2 years. Mr. Klotz has a BA from U of M Dearborn in education and a master's from Western Michigan in interscholastic athletic administration. He is a current teacher with Gibraltar Schools.
And what is his son's name?
What?
What's his son's name? But
Beckham.
welcome. He is clapping.
Is Mr. Scheffler here? I did not see Greg. So, okay. I know Mr. Valerius is here. Varsity hockey assistant coach. Mr. Valerius has been a high school teacher at Woodhaven High School since 2020. He earned his BA in English from Detroit Mercy and a master's in special education from U of M Dearborn and his master's in ed leadership from Madonna. He has over 13 years of coaching experience in bowling, soccer, and hockey.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes, please.
I love when this room is full of staff and administrators, especially when it's all good news. So thank you so much for coming to support your new team members. Appreciate it. And just one more shout out to Mr. Roberts, because this is a crazy schedule of interviewing. Good job. And fire.
There's no guarantee that you heard correctly. Yeah. Again, thank you for being here this evening. We're excited to have the caliber of people that are coming to the Woodhaven Brownstown School District. We think you're going to enjoy. And we hope that this is your final stop in education. Thank you. Moving along on the agenda under new business, police liaison officer position, Brownstown Township. As has been previously communicated with the Board of Education, funding is available from the school aid budget for cost matching grants for school resource officers. I have had discussions with the Brownstown Chief of Police about the interest and possibility of adding a third liaison officer for the school district, this being a second one from the Brownstown PD, and would be primarily housed at Brownstown Middle School, but also would serve the Brownstown Elementary Schools of Gudith and Waginka. The Brownstown Chief of Police has indicated his support for that addition. Because this would be a cooperative agreement between two governmental agencies, I'm asking for board support in moving in this direction so that the school district and Brownstown Township can move forward jointly with confidence. The suggested motions that the Board of Education approve their support of adding an additional school liaison officer in partnership with Brownstown Township as recommended.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Barry, supported by Bert and Kelsey.
It's everybody.
Any discussion?
I think just for anyone that is not aware, we had a conversation as a board about our safety initiatives a couple of weeks ago. Board members did, and this is something that we were in support of in making every effort this year and every year to provide as much safety as we can in our schools.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, hearing nothing further, all in favor of approving the motion as recommended signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I would make a statement before we approve things.
You're supposed to. Okay.
Thank you very much. Item number 6 is a bond construction update from our bond team members. Members of the bond team will update the board on timelines for Woodhaven High School construction and design. So at this moment, Mr. Rob Kokoski from Plant Moran, you have the podium, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Tonight we are here to update you on the Woodhaven High School design to follow up on the process that we started many months ago. The team's been working hard to continue with the design and continue on the timeline that we had previously gone through. So today wanted to update you on our progress, talk about the design and phasing. So with us, we have Ron Boswinkle and Tom Danker with GMB Architects and Bill McCarthy with McCarthy and Smith, the construction manager. So they will be joining me up here to go through the presentation. Today we'll really we'll review the guiding principles that were established for this project for the high school. We'll then go through the design update for the high school and give you a bunch of slides of where we're at with everything and some renderings and show you where we're at with the phase, and then talk about the construction sequencing and schedule review. And then from there, open up any questions and answers that you have. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ron Boswinkle to start you off with the guiding principles.
Thank you. A lot of these guiding principles are things that you've seen before as we've gone through and given updates to the board previously, but we did want to go back and just kind of reset everybody's memory. When we go into a project like this, we like to start off with the guiding principles just so that they give us an overarching set of goals to achieve throughout the course of the design and planning. Number one is fully integrated freshman class. That was a decision that was made to bring the ninth graders back to Woodhaven High School. The second one was promote equity and commitment. Third was state of the art facilities. And fourth was amplifying the campus feel. Going the wrong way. And again, what we want to do from a scheduling standpoint, this is just a graphic that shows you where we are in the timeline for production of the documentation that is going to lead to the construction, the design activities. We've come through, several of the major phases, schematic design. We just issued our design development set for estimating today to McCarthy and Smith. And I always like to remind people that, when you're looking at these, this is not necessarily showing you exactly the length of time that it's going to take for a construction project or for design activities. It's just showing you the magnitude of the decisions that we're making or that we have made as we're going through the process. So what you're seeing there with that green line, while it shows that we're about halfway through the process, we're looking to issue our construction documents for bidding at the beginning of November. So we're still, we're well into the design process. And like I said, I just wanted to, just go through that.
I have a question. Just to clarify for me, when you talk about design update, are you talking about the basic things like the number of classrooms, where we're going to put things, or are you talking about the I'll say the frilly stuff? What are you talking about when you say design update?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
It's both. It's, as we go through the design development, schematic design is more the programming, the composition, the overall thought that's going behind the planning of the facility. Design development allows us to take a deeper dive into, okay, what are the finishes actually going to look like? What's the design aesthetic going to look like? Some of those different things. Construction phasing is something that we start looking at during design development, so that we have a better understanding of how the project is going to get actually built. And then when we get into that construction documentation phase, and what you start seeing is that orange phase is where we're making some of the bigger decisions, and then we keep going into smaller and smaller bubbles. Doesn't mean that we're not making as many decisions. It's just that we're getting more and more fixed on what the composition is going to look like. So when we get to that blue circle that's faded out onto the right of the purple circle, what you're looking at is that's our construction document phase, where we've made a lot of the decisions and now it's just documentation so that it can be constructed. So as we entered into the project, there were a lot of things that were already planned into the project before we started really looking at the design, and that was through the efforts that the Plant Moran had done previously to identify what the scope was the scope was understood to be at the time. And you can see the amount of shading that we have throughout the existing floor plan is indicating improvements that were already planned to be made throughout the building. So that includes new classroom flooring, new corridor and classroom ceilings, renovation of existing restrooms that hadn't been renovated before, new LED lighting throughout the building, door replacements, and then mechanical replacements, which when you look at that, that's already an incredible amount of work that's going to be done on the building. And then when we start looking at when we looked at the building and we said, okay, what are those guiding principles leading us to do that first guiding principle of bringing the freshmen back allowed us to step back and look at the building overall and start saying, how do we do that? And so what we did was we looked at some of the underutilized spaces that were in the buildings, and those were either spaces that were either not being used or could be repurposed for some other use, and that could accommodate either classroom functions or significant populations as they're moving forward. in the planning. We also realized that we were going to need to find some other spaces, and originally we were looking in the media center, which is that orange area that was in the center of the building, and trying to see if we could reconfigure that to gain some spaces from a media center or from a classroom standpoint. And then we also were looking at the addition on the upper right of this drawing, where we're showing a performing arts addition and a cafeteria and kitchen renovation project, and then relocation of the graphic arts over to the lower left-hand corner of the building and renovating that space for athletic use. And then renovating the existing choir and band room in the purple in the middle on the right for classroom spaces. So what that led to is a conceptual floor plan that I'm going to let Tom kind of walk us through and get us into a little bit more detail.
Thanks, Ron. So after working with Woodhaven High School staff and some of the teachers and administrators at the building, one of the things that came out was the importance of the space that's directly outside of the media center in terms of student use for collaboration, for lunch periods, etc. And so the ability to actually get classrooms built into that center core of the building became an obvious need that wasn't going to be able to be met. So from there, we sort of shifted directions just slightly, knowing that we still had to try to accommodate the full 9th grade class. And so how would we do that? There's still spaces that we could utilize within the building that were underutilized that we could put classrooms back into. But we were going to have to add potentially a couple of additional classrooms in terms of renovated space to accomplish the goal. The other thing that was a part of the initial bond planning was a cafeteria renovation, which was extremely important. Again, in order to bring the freshman class back into the building, but then also to update it and make it more usable and functional and make it feel like more of an extension to the PBLZ in the center of the building. So if you notice that sort of yellowy swath of area that extends up from just outside the media center through the PBLZ into the cafeteria and then out towards the Performing Arts Center, the intent is to create a usable functional space that would be able to be used for lunch periods, but also for collaboration and student use outside of the classroom during the rest of the day. And to make that feel like a cohesive a space that is an extension of each other and sort of spreads that out throughout the building so it makes it more usable across the entire student body. The graphics classroom, in addition, would still happen with some additional classrooms added on to that down in the southwest corner, along with renovation of the former counseling space and shifting that up closer to the main office. The goal there is to try to bring the administration staff and counseling staff more closely together, so that there was greater synergies that could happen in that goal. The cafeteria would then be renovated. The servery would be expanded to accommodate greater flow and to reduce student congestion. And then new choir and band room would be built along with an extension of the auditorium corridor and entry sequence as an extension of that PBLZ zone as a foyer. I'll call it a foyer. As a way to both get entrance into the Performing Arts Center, but also to be utilized during the school day for learning outside of the classroom and during lunch periods. So the band and choir room are right there in the dark purple. And that would include new instrument storage, new practice rooms, new offices, new music library, etc., and bring it more to the forefront. And create a new front exterior for the school along Van Horn. In terms of square footage to what was there, about twice.
So Mike, I think we have a bond update the end of this month. Is that a workshop the end of the month? Next month. Next month? So, because I have a lot of questions about this, that I've not seen this before. Are we gonna have an opportunity in that workshop to talk about this before construction begins? Or should I ask my questions now? I mean, I can hold them. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I guess I'm, depending on what the questions are, let's take them on the table, so
Well, one of them is with it being kind of spread out, at least that's the way it looks. Is there gonna be any interface or confusion with classrooms? If you've got kids outside in a hallway that are working together, that are collaborating on programs or process, things, is it gonna interfere with any classrooms? I'm thinking noise wise.
Sure. So the only classrooms that have any sort of space outside of it are really the band and choir classrooms, which are noisy classrooms to begin with. Most of the rest of the classrooms, there is a marketing classroom that will be rebuilt as a result of the cafeteria expansion. Most of the rest of this space for the PBLZ and outside of the media center are do not have classrooms associated with it necessarily. And we can work to shift entrances and things to classrooms that are adjacent if desirable or if needed to reduce those distractions.
Okay, well, I'm not asking you to shift anything. I'm just, again, for me, this is the first I've seen it. Others
Yep.
may have seen it.
That's a great
I
question.
haven't caught up yet.
Excellent question.
That's good.
Yep.
That's good. No, not at the moment.
Okay.
Just wanted to add, we spent a lot of time with the principals and assistant principals all through classroom layouts and counts and charts of placing, where would staff in different, curriculums or how they would fit around there to make sure, you didn't have classrooms off by themselves or, a kid would have to walk from here to there. So spent a lot of time earlier this spring, really going through, making sure the classroom counts were right and the layouts really work with the flow.
So this doesn't put any teacher on a card or anything like that, or
That's correct. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit to show so this is the area of the current band and choir space. This will be renovated into four classrooms and a sensory space in the future. And then this would be mostly general education classrooms. And again, as Rob mentioned, we've worked with the administration at the high school to determine and they've had time to look at this and digest it and begin to think about what teachers go where as a result of that. Just south of that would be 2 additional classrooms as well as renovating. This is the renovated former graphic arts classroom. Behind that would be the new athletics office. So this would be for the athletic director and associated administration staff. It would create storage and would provide a place where students could come when they do their reveal for signing day, for instance. So a backdrop, a Woodhaven, Brownstown, Woodhaven Warriors backdrop that would allow for this to be a more up and current with the way that students are sort of revealing where they're headed going into the future. It would also provide a separate access point for the day, through the day, a secure access point for the school for parents to be able to get into the athletics office without having to come through the school in order to do that.
what's the trainers area? Is that in this area?
The training area is just down the hall from that. That would be in this purple area right here. And that would be renovated and expanded upon. So we're growing that by about another third to almost half. The counseling suite, this is renovating 3 existing classrooms into a new counseling suite up adjacent to the main office, providing a new space for counselors to do their work, as well as providing a space for an outside clinic, I think is the right terminology or the way that we've been talking about it, that will be used within this area. Housed within this area. And then finally, the new graphics arts edition with 2 classrooms and a much larger and renovated graphic arts room that will house all of the current equipment plus some new, along with space for roughly 30 computers within that room as well. So as we think about these, we have a couple of renderings that we can show, both of the graphics arts edition as well as, and then I'll dive into the performing arts edition. With the graphic arts edition, our hope is to weave this into the existing building so it feels very much like an extension of the current Woodhaven High School expansion that was done a few years back for the CTE edition. So new brick classroom with punched windows into the classroom areas, and then a larger opening into the south side of the graphic arts edition that's similar to the other openings that are currently on the CTE edition. So this will feel very much like it's an extension of the current Woodhaven High aesthetic. Any questions, comments? I'll pause here for a split second, or we can keep going. All right. Diving into the cafeteria expansion and renovation. So here we're looking at an expanded serving and kitchen area. So right now, the current serving area and kitchen sort of occupy basically this area right in through here. So we're expanding that out and making this what I would call equivalent to more like a college type of experience where students have grab and go options that they can interact with. Vending will be a part of this, along with a dedicated grab and go area that will be a part of that. And then renovating the cafeteria to make it feel more modern and fresh with new finishes, new furniture, in order to improve the capacity of the cafeteria and account for what will be an incoming addition to freshman class. So as we look at, this is coming into, and if you look at this key plan, it coming into the servery from the main corridor. So we're, again, freshening the finishes, sort of pulling in some of the great things that have already been done at Woodhaven High School using the purple glazed brick, new flooring, new equipment and counters and surfaces, along with wayfinding and signage. The intent here is that when students enter, they sort of scatter disperse. So there's not a big congestive point when you first come into the servery. They go to their station, they get their things, and then they move out of the servery and pay accordingly. So this is what it might look like in a more, what I'll call congested way if you had a group of students that all came in all at one time, and you can see how that dispersion begins to work. From one of the stations, looking across to the other stations and what that looks like. And then as you come out of the cafeteria, come out of the servery and into the cafeteria, this is that area where we would have grab and go cases along with additional behind that, the equipment. And so you can see how this is very much open, very college campus-like or feel with pay stations and cast stations outside of that to account for moving students through. Working with our consultant, we believe we can move through like 100 kids or 300 kids in 10 minutes. So a fairly significant increase, comparatively speaking, to the way that it is today. The rest of the cafeteria would then be renovated with different furniture options than sort of the traditional round oval tables. We've done a plan thus far that gets us upwards of 425 students in the cafeteria under this scenario. We can even go higher than that using traditional sort of oval-shaped tables, upwards of 550, 570 students within the room. So we're working within these confines to sort of begin to have conversations with the Woodhaven High administration to find that right number and to dial that in. Knowing, and those numbers are outside of what is accommodated already in the PBLZ and outside of the media center. So the goal was to try to get to be able to accommodate a 2-lunch scenario, 3-lunch scenario, thank you. I'm getting confused between some of the districts I'm on. 3-lunch scenario.
And one of the things that, as we're talking about that high number of seating, is we know that we're not gonna put that many students in that cafeteria area, because we're treating the PBLZ and the cafeteria as an extension of each other, rather than, what we witnessed when we were looking at the traffic flow in the cafeteria and the servery area before, was there's a fairly low amount of people that are actually utilizing the cafeteria. With the updates to this and enlivening that space will make that more of an attraction for the students, so that more of those will be coming back in from the PBLZ, and or you'll be balancing them out across those two areas.
Another view of the cafeteria. This is more headed now out of the cafeteria, more or back into the corridor that would connect back to performing arts. And then one final view inside the cafeteria, coming in off of the corridor adjacent to the PBLZ. So the intent here is to freshen this up, make it light, bright, and airy. But also to be able to show some zones where students can sit and lounge and gather and be together. So the school store actually moves into the PBLZ area, adjacent to the marketing classroom that would be also rebuilt in that center area.
It's basically across from the concession area that
Yeah.
we already have out there.
Yep. The intent was to try to make that a little more centralized to the school as a whole for student use.
This may be an unfair question, but what's the timing on when this is going to be done? Oh, that's you?
That'll be
Okay.
coming up.
That will be an unfair question for them.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Continuing to walk through the various areas, this is the Performing Arts Addition site plan. So this shows the impact to the site. Currently, the way the addition is designed, it does not impact the front drop-off sequence at all. It is set back, but still reaches out towards Van Horn. The biggest impact is actually to the east parking lot, which we are offsetting then with a parking lot addition and an expansion to the east of the tennis courts, stretching to the south down towards the existing softball practice field that is over there. So a net overall increase of parking spaces on site with a minor loss directly adjacent to this location for the addition to occur. This shows new bollards and benches, along with creating a new entry plaza for that addition as we think about performing arts entry and arrival to get to the main auditorium.
Tom, can we back up one?
Yeah, you bet.
In addition to that, one of the things that the plantings provide is a softening of the environment out there. It gives a little bit of green space, but it also provides security enhancements in trying to deter any kind of potential for vehicle ramming in the event of large events, either arriving or letting out during those peak times of arrival.
So with the planning of that, this introduces a new, much larger band room, instrument storage, new practice rooms, as I mentioned, offices and music library, a new choir space with practice and storage rooms as well. And then that foyer extension as we think about access to the main auditorium with new breakout alcoves along that corridor for students to be able to gather and lounge and collaborate in as well. So from the exterior, what we've started to look at is to create, using the metal panel that has been used in some of the other additions and renovations for like the athletic entrance to the south, just to the left side of this image, as well as on some of the other additions at the main office, etc., is to create a new Performing Arts Center entry. You can see those breakout rooms extend or protrude out through the main front glass facade. The intent is that this would be extremely well lit up at night and would begin to become more like a beacon for arrival for those coming for evening events, at performing arts, etc. And then using the language again as an extension of those entry sequences, creating more of a pillar column at the corner to support the overhang where you would come in underneath, and creating a new front door experience for this portion of the building. From if you were driving east on Van Horn, what you would see is a new larger glass facade with those breakout room follies coming through that students will be in, and using the purple glazed brick that has been used inside, but as well as on some of the athletics work that we've been doing thus recently. And then a night shot of that so you can get a sense for that all lit up and sort of glowing experience as you come along Van Horn, along the front side of Woodhaven High. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Bill to talk about construction sequencing and schedule.
So Tom has so eloquently stated the what and the where, and I'm going to try to explain the when and the how. So we're going to go. So we kind of break it up into phases, and we're trying to do it phasing with relationships. So our first phase, what we call phase A1, is really the construction of the graphic arts addition. And what that does, what we're looking to do is to start that in the spring of 2023 and expect that to be complete in fall of 2023. We then move with that relationship, that frees up the space of the old graphic arts, so that becomes available for us to remodel. And so we'd like to get in there in the late fall of 2023 through early winter of 2024 and remodel that space type thing. So that's that relationship between the former graphic arts and the new graphic arts. We then look at phase B1, and that's really the construction of the performing arts, the music and choir room. So what we're looking at there is we want to get started on the graphic arts addition first, then we'll mobilize to the northeast and start construction on this. This is going to be about a year-long project for that addition. And so we're looking at, summer of 2023 when school gets out, mobilize in there, and then complete it for fall of 2024. That relationship is, once that becomes available, we've got in the spring of 2024, the present music area, we've got that highlighted there. And that area we'd like to kind of vacate and go in there and start the remodeling of that space. We're netting out 4 classrooms within that space. So that, and have that ready for the summer of 2024. So when school starts in 2024, have those classrooms available. And the last phase is really, well, we go into phase C1, that's the cafeteria and the servery remodeling. There's a major remodeling within the servery that needs to be performed. So we're really looking at a spring timeframe through summer timeframe for that renovation. And that relates to then also the area in the PBLZ. We were looking to hold that off to the summer of 2024 because we need that overflow space for temporary housing of students for lunch periods. So that those areas will be developed for the new marketing areas, the student store, et cetera, in that period of time. We have the renovation of existing classroom space into the new counseling area that's proposed, and we're looking at winter of 2024 through spring of 2024. So like January, getting into that space when rooms become available where we can relocate those people into some other newly created classroom space and then go get into that space and renovate. And then lastly, the renovation of, again, that counseling suite into classrooms for summer of 2024. So that's kind of how we work around the building in the various phases of construction. Throughout, we've got the general remodeling taking place in the summer of 2023 and summer of 2024 of the work that we talked about as far as flooring replacement, ceilings and lighting improvements, and trying to weave our way throughout the building throughout the course of the school year. Yep.
Because I feel like in our last conversation, we had originally been planning to move the ninth graders over fall of 23, and it was discussed that likely it's not gonna happen, it'd be fall of 24.
4.
So this is 22, 23. Yeah, so now it's pretty much.
It's pretty much, yeah, because what we're doing now is as Tom alluded to, or and Ron, in the initial thoughts on moving, the integration of the ninth grade into the high school, we're really looking at creating classroom space within the existing building. And what's really turned out is we're actually creating additional classrooms outside the existing footprint. So
The cafeteria is not even being worked on until fall and winter of 24, then that doesn't, can we move them over before we complete the cafeteria? Good question.
the cafeteria will be complete for fall of 2024.
Okay.
Yep.
So all construction will be done fall of 24.
Let's just say it's gonna be ready for students fall of 2024. It's a tight time frame. We got a lot of sequencing going on, and we're anxious to get started. There's a lot of work to get done. So we've got some big chunks of work in that cafeteria that we need more than 3 months worth of time to do. So we gotta work with the high school to figure out how we can get into those spaces where it makes sense to really get in there and do it. Likewise with what's the present music area, and look at how can we get into those areas quicker.
But as far as communication from this board or this superintendent to our community, we're now going to be able to say fall of 24?
I want this conversation to take place so that those communications can be done once and be definitive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So when
'cause-
are we gonna have that conversation?
Well, I kind of like go back to Laura's point. Like, we've had such a long, I feel like, break since our last bond meeting.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't leave there with the understanding that we were looking at summer of 2024. I knew it was a possibility.
We were leaning, at that point, we
Right,
kind of laid
so-
out those two scenarios, but with the advent of additions and not building within, which this is the ultimate solution here, it's really leaning towards that 2024. That's just kind of forcing the issue.
So I'll ask a question that's probably obvious, but for my own check, I need to, can you confirm that, like, that's a big deal, like, we're pushing everything out by a year, because then we've got 5th, 6th grade, and
I
7th,
gotta-
8th, and.
Let me
I mean,
walk you through that too.
But that would impact everything.
yep.
So did the team and the committee and the administration and we look at everything, like just really crazy brainstorming in every possibility, because to push everything out by a year, I don't think is something we should take lightly.
We're not taking it lightly, but becomes a physical reality of the space within. And so what we did is, I got a little slide here that just kind of walks you through the various phases. And what we talk about is, I think what, in the earlier slides, you saw there were some underutilized spaces within the building, which was a great springboard to accommodate the ninth grade in it. So we call that 8 classrooms that are existing within the building. And it's targeting approximately 18 classrooms that are needed throughout for the ninth grade integration.
9. What? No, 9 classrooms that we needed. Now you're saying it's 18?
It's an overall 18
In
number
addition
that
to
we're looking at.
the identified existing
Right.
underutilized spaces.
Right.
Yes,
okay.
so I think that 18 number incorporates all of that.
Okay.
So we start off with 8, but as we go through the various phases, we're kind of in phase A1, we net 2 additional classrooms. And then in A2, the remodel of the vacated graphic arts, another 2 classrooms come online. So now we're up to 12. And then you can see the remodel of the vacated music area, we pick up 4 more classrooms. But those don't come on until basically in time for fall 2024. And lastly, the remodel, the student store and classrooms in that area off the PBLZ, there's another 2. So that gets us the 10 additional classrooms, that brings us up to the 18. So a lot of that is being constructed, and in space that is presently there, that's not available until we create new space for that music area to move on.
I understand. It looks like we get 70% of the classrooms by fall of 2023. So it's the additional 30% or whatever that's needed. And I want to make sure that that we can feel comfortable that absolutely everything was looked at and turned over and thought about.
And the other thought too, the other concern too, is you're building these additions, which are big things, and then that summer of 2024 is really when the cafeteria is really getting dealt with. So, you know, you really need the cafeteria ready to go for the students, and that's the timing of that, to get that lined up.
I just got a few things, because, I mean, I guess when you say being comfortable, I was comfortable in the initial meetings because I feel we were told that we could move the high school over with the existing space that we had. Was that inaccurate or accurate?
We knew all along that we had additional classroom spaces that needed to be added.
I mean, I guess I just feel like why go to the community? Why push this initiative of fall of 2023, knowing that's really wasn't a possibility then to even build that additional classroom space before then? I guess I'm just confused. I mean, I knew we talked about the additional space, you know, additional classrooms that could be built, but I don't believe initially it was tied into, but this space is gonna move to this space. It was, we could build the additional classrooms.
I think it goes back to the earlier comment made about the PBLZ and the media center, and the thought was that you could go into that space and renovate that space and create more classrooms within that block. And that's where we were gonna get into, okay, if that was gonna be the practice, then you would have those classrooms quicker. But now that we're creating spaces on the outside, that was thought that from a program perspective, they really want to maintain that existing PBLZ area in the media center and not interrupt that activity. And so we're not creating classrooms within that block of space.
That was a result of collaborative discussions that we had with the administrators and staff and building back in the spring. As we were working through these spaces and how we best align these spaces, you know, and still maintain the media center as opposed to getting away from that media center. We have looked at an option with the media center moving out, which would allow that internal construction to happen, which is much faster and much easier. No, I shouldn't say easier, but to do than having to do the additions on, which is using extension of these conversations.
I mean, I know we discussed it being sooner than this, but if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. Like, this is not going anywhere. So if we're gonna move ninth graders over, let's be transparent with people and say it's not gonna be, and it's gonna be a couple years, because we just, you know, things are gonna be done a little differently, because this school is not changing. This is gonna be the high school. I mean, so let's do it right. I mean, I know as a parent in the school district, I mean, I'd rather know that it's getting done right and they're not moving classrooms around the next year and moving everything around. That doesn't make any sense to our staff, to our kids. Like, do it right from the get-go. And I think people will respect that and know, like, okay, it's gonna be longer than we thought. And then instead of saying it's gonna be 2023 and all of a sudden it's 2024, like, as a parent, you wanna know whether your kid's going to the high school or not. I mean, for me, I would. So I think, you know, making this decision now is important instead of waiting and not being able to get it done, which doesn't make sense.
What we do, when we say it, we also need to, when we tell the parents, we also need to tell them when, you know, the other grades are planning on moving to the other schools. 'Cause I think that's where the most
Confusion,
conflict is at.
yeah.
So that's
The younger
kids,
children.
and that- For some
Yeah.
parents coming up to me thinking it's next year, I'm like, no.
Right.
So I think that communication needs to go out at the same time.
100%.
So does this currently mean that there will not there'll be minimal construction happening inside the school while students are there?
There'll be ongoing construction activity, probably on a second shift basis. There'll be, in areas of renovation, it'll be blocked off and we'll have construction ongoing. So when an area becomes available that has been vacated and we can remodel to create, like when the graphic arts moves out, we're over there. So we're working in that space. And that's a nice space because it's kind of out there, you know, kind of likewise the music area. That's kind of like out there. Cafeteria's not so nice. It's right in the heart of things, but we're gonna have to figure that one out, how we get in, because that's a major scope of work.
Because when we have our meeting, I'd really like to make sure we have a time where we're talking about the safety of students and staff
Yeah.
during that.
And you know, just going back to the previous bond, and we added on to all four corners of the building. So we kind of went through a similar exercise, and we developed a phasing plan, and then, you know, separation of construction, and we'll go through that with the high school administration, work collectively with them, and develop that plan.
So can I ask, with the timeline, it appears, or maybe I'm incorrect, we're gonna be focusing on the high school up through 2024. So will there be any renovations done at our elementary buildings or secondary, which I think we talked about early on, at least I know I didn't brought up that the focus has been there for a while. This is amazing stuff, don't get me wrong. It needs to happen, but are we now not gonna do really any construction or renovations in our elementaries till beyond 2024?
So what this slide is trying to show us is the relationship between the high school and then Patrick Henry, and moving the fifth grade over to Patrick Henry, which is dependent upon the ninth graders and moving that out. So we're just trying to show that Patrick Henry is be the next the logical building to advance into renovation, and that's what we're kind of showing on this slide, whereas we would be under construction. We're, as Ron stated, we're concluding the design work by early November, so we can go out for bidding and then awarding. Patrick Henry will be into the design phase, and then Patrick Henry we'd be bidding that out late summer, early fall of 2023 for a construction period of 2024, so we can have the remodeling work done to accommodate the fifth graders moving into Patrick Henry. So that, we'd have those two buildings going on concurrently at that point. So, because we gotta create this, gotta redevelop the space at Patrick Henry for the fifth graders.
I understand. So we're gonna be looking at pretty much a building at a time in my mind. I guess a little bit down the road, there will be two. But again, I'm assuming the timeline is maybe a little different than what we originally saw, but it's really pushing out any kind of construction or renovation. I'm assuming the elementary schools are gonna be the last then down the line.
And then they'll come out, we've got it, we're developing a program schedule to kind of figure that out. We're also balancing this with the cash flow. So when the funding becomes available, so we're right on the cusp with these two projects to get this, and then it'll be on to the elementaries.
I understand.
So just very direct,
Looking at our finance guy.
Patrick Henry would receive fifth graders in this fall of 2025.
2024 is what we're looking at. So the goal is the ninth graders move out in spring of 2024, and then we're in their remodeling, we're in the remodeling process, and then we need to be ready for fall of 2024.
So instead of being a 2-year phase in,
Yep.
a fall of 2023 and a fall of 2024, the entire realignment takes place, occurs in fall of 2024.
Yep.
Based on this. So then I think that the question ultimately becomes, what options, if our Board of Education, if our community, if the direction we want is to go back to the two-stage implementation, are there any options available to us to go back to fall 2023, fall 2024, the two-stage implementation, moving ninth grade over in fall of 2023 through any means necessary, given the design parameters that you've been, working under? Portable classrooms, teachers on carts. I mean, these are the types of things that have to be answered and discussed and talked about as making, if we are, really set on pushing for fall 2023, or if we're content with an all-in transition come fall 2024.
We can explore what that looks like to get accomplished. It will require additional temporary space. That's the unfortunate thing, or we have to, you can only,
Shannon's said, I want to do it right and do it, move everybody over when it's set. Their transition's easier, they're not in a temporary building and then moving somewhere else, getting used to basically a whole new building. I'd rather have it done right and move our kids.
So we've had a little bit of, not to interrupt, but we've had a little bit of discussion about teachers on carts. We've started those discussions, and if it's possible and it's not desirable, obviously, but as far as portable classrooms are concerned, we've also looked into those, and right now, is it Van Buren who's doing the portable classrooms? Is it Dundee? And two classroom portable, you still have to go through the full plan review with the state. You could bring them online, but the two classroom portables are costing them around $300,000. So for us, we would need probably 6 classrooms. So it would cost us probably an additional $1 million if we wanted to add portables to that solution.
But I think the question was, and it sounds like you have, did you explore other options besides just extending our time frame? And you have.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that was the question
Yeah.
that I was gonna ask, and I think Mark asked it.
Yeah, so I guess just, I mean, it sounds like, you know, Rob and Shannon have mentioned doing things right. I'm not opposed to that. I guess what I struggle with the most is maybe it's the 4 months between bond meetings where it seems like all this kind of planning and timing and realignment took place, and I just don't feel like it was, like, to Laura's point, it was mentioned at the last meeting that it was a possibility, but now I feel like it's like, yep, this is kind of it, and I just kind of feel a little disconnected from it all. It's a big undertaking, I totally get it, but it just, and I didn't come across, that's why I asked the question, I didn't come across that, yes, we've explored everything, and this is, you know, what we're recommending. So if that's the case, and board members are okay with that, then
And I get that it has been a stretch since our last committee, the whole meeting. We are, but to reiterate, I mean, we're not beyond that point. I mean, board can give direction, and we'll continue to explore and bring forward, you know, every option that's available. And then duly noted, we have committee of the whole meeting scheduled for mid-September. I don't recall if it's October or November thereafter. We strategically place them so that before any of this goes out for bid, and it's even, I think bid goes out in November, so we have a meeting scheduled before it goes out for bid in November. The meeting in September is more refinement of design and development. All that to say, when we do schedule our committee of the whole meetings bond-related for the new year, we'll start in January and go minimally every other month.
Yeah.
For that.
I'd rather have them shorter and
Yes.
cancel them than
Yep.
to go this
Just
long.
go on, I mean, this could have been communicated, I think, better to the board too, through, if we had facility meetings over the last couple months. I think it wouldn't have been so big of a shock. Or, you know, I think we get the updates, you know, that are from the meetings from Plant Moran, you know, in the board reports, but there's been no facility meetings the last couple months.
Well, I think we agreed that bond stuff would be done as a committee of the whole. So that could be part of the reason why you're not doing it in facility meetings. I thought that was kind of the direction we went. But I will support what Shannon and Rob are saying. I would like it to be done right also. And I would like it to be done as seamlessly as we can make it happen. I just want to ask you guys, is fall of '24, like, that's it? You're not going to come back?
Wait, I'm knocking on wood here. These are challenging days.
Yes.
I mean, so this is the goal, and to get the students in there, so it's a good experience. Is it gonna be 100%? No, it won't. I can guarantee you that, because there hasn't been anything that's been 100% for a number of years now. So what we need to do is just, we're all working together on the same, you know, out of the same book, the same goals, and that's our goal. And make
You
that,
can come in here tonight and sell us a story that fall of '24 is gonna happen, but in your mind, you know it's gonna be January of '25.
oh no, I don't want any of you hearing that. You know, this is, hate to say it, this is kind of the fun part of the work.
Yeah.
Is planning, you know, how do you make this stuff happen? Sometimes it's a little disappointing when things aren't gonna happen when people want them to happen, but it's gotta occur in a logical sequence, and that's what we like to try to work through with the team.
And I just want to clarify, I agree with you, we want it done right. I just think it's important for us to communicate, you know, with our community and our parents, the information. And I think the conversation was a little different prior to us putting out to the community that it would be fall of 2023. So had we had all that information, I just don't want to see us backtracking what we continue to tell the community and our parents, that's all. And again, I think the importance of getting some renovations done and focusing on our elementary buildings and our other secondary buildings is important, because at the high school, it's been several years we focused on that building and the renovations. And by this timeline getting pushed back another year means they're not gonna be touched for a year or two. And I'm assuming, I'm gonna guess 26, 27, you're gonna start pushing those dates out. And that's a long time to not do the renovations at our elementary buildings and work on those. And to me, that's disappointing, because when we talked about the phase, I would like to see if there's at least an opportunity to kind of push up working on some of those buildings maybe at the same time. I know it's tough with construction things right now, but at least focusing some of the renovations before another 5 years goes by. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, we're trying to find out how to get some elementary buildings incorporated. It turns out to be a cash flow thing, but there are opportunities that the team is working through to see about landings, you know, one elementary and that Patrick Henry phase two. So,
Okay.
a lot of it is dependent on cash flow, unfortunately, the bond for series.
Over 8 years.
I'll just add, if we're keeping track of count, I'm disappointed it wouldn't be fall of '23, but I would prefer to have it all done at once than do portable classrooms. I think that's a lot to ask the teachers to move from here to here and then back to here again. I think I would rather just have them do one move, one change at one time, so even if that's a year later than planned.
So it doesn't sound like anyone needs additional information or you to go research or anything like that. I'd hate to have anybody waste any time doing that, so. Okay. Thank you for the update. Yep.
Thank you.
Congratulations for waiting all through this.
No kidding.
Suck it out.
I think Rob has something.
Rob or anybody else, summer construction.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Between Mr. Belcher and Mr. Koski, could we get an update? Mr. Harris has asked for an update on summer construction projects.
So close.
Well, we have, Brownstown Middle School is starting to wrap up there. They're getting the furniture's moved back in tomorrow, and Friday they're starting to move it back in. The east and west wings are essentially complete out there. They're working on finishing up the center core area right now, getting all the above ceiling work done. Flooring's going in around there. So really this weekend will be a big weekend of getting things wrapped up and cleaned up. So furniture in the classrooms, like I said, goes back in starting tomorrow and Friday out there. So
Is there some work gonna be done on the outside of the BMS?
nothing in this first go round. It was mainly interior classroom renovations, flooring, lighting, some mechanical upgrades. There is some mechanical work that's going to have to be done this fall and next summer, really, for just equipment that we did not receive in time. We had pre-purchased a lot of the equipment, and we're still waiting on some of it to show up, just with the lead times of equipment and materials right now. So there are air handler replacements or rooftop unit replacements that we can do at a later date once they come in, but we did not receive all that equipment here this fall. The chillers are either just arrived or they're set to be coming. So we're gonna wait till the chillers are shut down for the year, and then we'll replace those here this fall, probably starting in November at both Brownstown and Patrick Henry. Both those are called to be replaced. So they came in, like I said, they either just came in or they're coming in, I think, maybe in early September. So
The work scheduled that was done this summer at Brownstown Middle School was planned and prepared for in advance of any configuration changes. But it was also done at a time when we were discussing configuration changes. So some of the exterior work and additional interior work will be in another phase to make it compatible with the configuration change.
Yes. So that's Brownstown, and then the Phase 2 athletic work has really started to ramp up now. They're getting foundations in for the concession buildings going in. They've done a lot of the site utilities, and you'll start seeing slabs poured and masons starting by the end of this month.
Seems like it's moving slow. Are they behind schedule, or it doesn't seem like there's been any work done over the summer? I know some of it can't be seen like the utilities.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't seem like there's been much movement over there over the summer.
I think Bill would attest, they wanted to get a little bit more done here this summer. I think lead time, manpower, materials, things like that have all hampered the start. I mean, the plan was really to start late summer. When we bid it, we knew summer construction was already well booked for the summer. So the plan was to start in, after the baseball season, after the fields were open.
So is this push, completion?
Nope, the intent is still really to be done by the end of the year.
End of the year.
Yep.
I mean, again, we'll be limited to what we can't get done because of weather, but the buildings will be done and completed. Really, our biggest issue was, as Rob said, the utility guy mobilized, remobilized, we got our stuff going. The back 40 has been seeded, that stuff you can't see, that's been done. And really, the biggest thing we've been held up on is waiting for the foundations to start, which we just started about a week ago. So that's been a manpower thing. As Rob alluded to, summer construction, this is the first window we could grab some, have them in. So it's working out, Mason's ready to go. We'll be ready to go vertical as soon as we get the foundations.
So that's the bulk of the work we have going on here this summer.
Thank you.
I just want to take 1 second and say thank you to Mike. I know you're kind of like, and one guy spearheading, working with all of these people. So all the questions that we have, not intended to be negative, just,
No, I want the questions.
I know, but thank you.
Dialogue is,
Right.
important.
Probably good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Under reports, the first report we have this evening, Human Resources Staffing and Enrollment Update from Mr. Roberts.
Ooh. Yeah. All right, just quick update on where we are with staffing. We had 47 classroom or teacher openings since the close of the 2021-22 school year. As you'll see, the goal, and just to start off, the goal of all of the administrators who help and the HR office, the goal is every position in the entire district is filled the first day of school. Going down, slowly but surely, it's unacceptable that a classroom teacher isn't filled the first day of school. So that's not even a goal, that's just the expectation. So we as we go through this, you'll see where we are. But a lot of interviews, 51 interview series with a total of 204 interviews with engagement from every district administrator, including Peggy. The day after she was hired, she was in interviews. So I don't know, yeah, she's still here. So yeah, she was in interviews the next day. 150 current staff members were involved, some of them multiple times. Whether it was a coaching interview, para interviews, or professional staff. So a lot of involvement, a lot of stakeholders getting involved. We had 34 teacher hires, including those tonight. We have 4 teaching positions that are still vacant, 2 elementary. We have interviews set for tomorrow. BMS ELA, we're interviews set for Thursday. And WHS Math, we've identified the candidate and they're set to interview with Mark. So my expectation is by next Wednesday or next Tuesday, we'll have 4 people that we'll be reaching out they'll start them as a sub and they'll be approved at the next board meeting. So, but they'll be here the first day of school.
So that's what I was gonna ask, because we don't have a meeting again until after, so will that be a kind of a post-effective date? Okay.
And I'll make sure I communicate that out. I'll get it to the HR committee and I'll get it to Mark to put in the superintendent report on who those are and where they're gonna be, so yes. Paraprofessional openings, we have 31 positions unfilled, but 17 unassigned pairs, including those we hired tonight. We had 11 already unassigned, so we anticipate needing 14 additional pairs as it stands right now. So to be completely transparent, I'm very concerned with our hourly employee positions, getting them filled with the staffing shortages, not only with us, but just the private sector and other school districts. For those positions, we will continue to work with our principals to send out information to our most likely parents that may be looking for a part-time job. Come in.
Out as an email from the districts with some of those openings and what hours are required and what, I'm thinking about like back when I was a stay-at-home mom, if I'd gotten an email like that that said I could work the same hours my kids were at school, if it came to me, I might have paid attention to it. Is there a way to?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to tailor those communications in to come from the source, and it's from multiple sources, but from the source that the individual is most likely to receive it and see it. And so, Laura, I'm sorry, that was a long time ago. And so, with the way everybody's inundated with social media, and we're trying to make sure that those communications are hitting them where they're receiving the communication. So, absolutely.
And we have the bid meeting, those 17 unassigned, 11 of them will get the opportunity to bid on Monday. We'll then assign the additionals those that were hired tonight, or haven't hired. And then we'll have a clear understanding of what hours and locations are open still. But just so everyone's clear, they may bid on IEP positions. We will make sure that we adjust them. We have right of placement to move pairs, and we will make sure that all mandatory students with needs have their one-on-ones covered before an at-risk or an early elementary child care pair will be filled. So those will be covered first. Those are our priority.
So, I'm sorry, two questions, because I think I heard you right, but I want to clarify. So the IP paras, you said would take precedence. Are those right of assignment by district? Is that?
So they're not, they will have the opportunity to bid on those. We do have some input with Mr. Salah and myself and work with the union. And if we have an issue where there's someone that's not where we think is fit, we do have that collaboration, that communication to talk it through. We do have right of placement for all new hires before they are actually, through their probation and able to bid on positions. Also, if you'll remember last year, we did go through the contract. We allowed it to where there is no bumping out of this. There's only bidding on positions. So most paras who left last year are with their same child again this year. Even if that child moved building, they will have the opportunity to bid on new positions that are open, but they won't be bumped out of their child that they're with.
Okay. And then the second one, can you just at a high level, because this is a lot of new, I think, para assignments, right? So where this is coming from, and if you're getting to it, I'm sorry if I'm jumping.
So, no, this is good. 10 of them, just 10 right off the bat, are going to be 2 early childhood pairs at each of the elementaries. That's 10 positions that are additional that we haven't had in the past. Those are new. We did have some increase, and Mr. Salah might be able to chime in a little bit on the number of paras coming, our students with needing para support coming into the district.
Yep, so we did have, we get new students enrolled every day. I think the increase in special education pairs, 2 of them are as a result of our ASD program.
Okay. Yep.
Professional in that position. And then we also added a paraprofessional to our early childhood play group position. So those are the 2 newer positions in special education. We have, so those 2, an ASD classroom, ECP classroom, and then 2 additional IEPs.
So that's 15.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, that's
Wonderful.
15 right there.
The other 10 are the early childhood.
Yeah.
With the,
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
All right. Any other questions on the paras? All right. Support staff, we still have an admin assistant at Waginka that is being covered. We did find a long-term sub who we do have filling in that position right now. We've gone through interviews. We did a job offer. They then turned and did what all good employees do and use that job offer to negotiate a salary raise at their current location. And we have it open still. So we are filling it with a sub. We're going to provide interviews, but that's secondary to where we currently are with wanting our teaching staff in place. We do have all security positions as of tonight with the 3 hires filled. So that's something new that we haven't had at the start of the year since I've been here, that all of them are filled. So that's good. Athletic staffs, all fall sports coaching positions were filled with the hiring of the assistant, of the middle school assistant coaches and head coaches tonight. We currently have a couple other openings for the year. 9th grade girls basketball head and assistant coach, JV competitive cheer, girls varsity soccer head and assistant coach. Those are recent resignations that you saw tonight. 7th and 8th grade baseball head coach, and middle school track. I think that's a head coach for Mr. Dennis after that resignation. So we actually are doing very well on our sports. I think we're going to see that the middle school in our athletics, with the number of assistant coaches we have, those tend to be the ones where we're going to turn over. Third-party staffing, currently short 2 drivers and transportation. Custodial, we're short no one So we're staffed. That's why there's no openings there. And food service has 12 openings. Understanding the 12 openings with food service, that is with some of our drivers helping to cover the lunch aid positions. Some of our bus drivers are covering the lunch aid positions to do those. And so I've been talking with Mr. Uri about ways we can do advertisement to promote some of those positions. Oops. On to enrollment, that's all of staffing, but on to enrollment. As of 7:30 a.m. this morning, we have 30 more total students enrolled than fall of 2021. But please keep in mind, we may have students who have moved out that we aren't aware of yet. So that could balance, but we do, if you come in here pretty much any given time during the day, you're gonna see enrollments.
That number will get higher before it gets lower. We will, between now and the first day of school, we will enroll 10 to 15 students per day. And then once school starts is when we'll really understand, those students that have moved out of district. So,
What's the date for, that we do the actual count? I've forgotten.
1 second, it's in October.
It's the second, I believe it's the second Tuesday of October.
Yeah.
Okay.
Josh, what was the, offhand what the enrollment number was that we used for the budget? I don't know, it was 54.
But in this number this number doesn't reflect all students. It doesn't take into account our TOT students, which go into that number as well. The number, we used a flat enrollment as part of the budget.
You want to say we put down 100 like you always do?
So where we are with our enrollment, where they're coming in, young fives and kindergartners, we have a good amount of space available, district-wide, except we have closed Waginka's kindergarten, meaning that it's not gonna be
What number did we close it at?
25.
Classroom.
Yeah. First grade district-wide is tight. That's why if you'll recall, we did not take any school of choice for first grade because we knew going in it was gonna be tight. So. Second through fifth grade, pockets of tight, but overall it's in good shape. We'll be able to place kids from our school of choice list.
But not even necessarily from our school of choice list, because yes, we will place kids from our schools of choice list, but we only took one at each grade level, district-wide. Where we may have to be flexible is if somebody comes in to register at Bates second grade, they'll be placed into Irving second grade. That's where our flexibility comes in.
Unless they already have a sibling in the school, I think then you really try to work it out, don't you?
We do, but we generally don't see it with an enrollment above kindergarten.
Our secondary grades right now, as it currently stands.
Yeah, this is generally where they're at this time of the year. Those numbers will likely grow, especially at BMS and Patrick Henry between now and the start of the school year, and then those are typically that's where we see, I don't want to say the greatest decline because it sounds negative, but whatever we gain will probably fall back to about this number once we figure out who has moved out of the district.
So we're going to continue our residence, place of our elementary school of choice students and our building of choice students.
Our school of choice placements, remember at the elementary level, we only took 15 at the kindergarten level and then 1 in grades 2 through 5. So those early this week, we first took care of 99% of the building of choice requests that we could, those residents that were choosing another school placement. And then once we get through those, then we go to the schools of choice placements. And so that'll take place tomorrow.
And any questions?
Question, on the interview committees, people that do the interviewing, how are they compensated?
So
Joe Smith, I sat in on the interview.
secondary, or if your principals, administrators they typically use their they have 3 additional days that they work throughout the summer, as part of their contract. They typically use those to do interviews. The teachers, most of them, it's just they're volunteering their time. We make sure we give them a good, we have good snacks like coffee and snacks, and then typically they get lucky and there's a good lunch if it goes over lunch. We try to make sure that we value their time, and a lot of them, and I think this speaks to our staff, they want to be part of it, and typically those members that are on that committee, a lot of them are probably here tonight because they end up being the mentors, because that's the value they show in the district. So.
Though I think it's something that needs further discussion, and something, just this year, there's been unbelievable, in my opinion, amount of openings. I'd like to see some type of compensation from the board or the interview committees above and beyond what they, well, if someone didn't get anything, they volunteered. So I don't know what it is or how it looks, but I'd like there to be some conversation on what that could look like. I just think it's the number, I've never seen it in the years I've been on the board, this number of openings. Not looking for any extra compensation for you, everything's golf balls or something.
They usually go right, so some that go left would be nice.
I'd like some conversation. I just think it's over and above what I've ever seen, and I just think there was a lot of volunteering and a lot of extra work, so there could be some conversation on some type of compensation from the district.
I think we can move that into the personnel committee for an initial discussion.
Any other questions or comments?
Just a big thank you for, this is really, really impressive. So everybody that was a part of it, and to all the new employees, welcome. Incredible.
I know my slideshow wasn't.
Well, I'm still impressed by how many people are sitting in this room.
It's amazing. Amazing.
Mark used to say,
You might have a little help at home.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Under Superintendent's Report, the following resignations were accepted. Chelsea Ball as a building substitute teacher, Patrice Barden as a Patrick Henry Middle School social worker, Lauren Fornwalt, special services paraprofessional, Katie Haley, tote teacher, Scott Hoy, varsity girls soccer assistant coach, Elsbeta Klusterman, tote teacher, Abby Lorenz, varsity girls soccer head coach, effective at the end of the fall season, and then the varsity boys soccer assistant coach, effective in July. Nicole Ozemek, Gudith Elementary School fourth grade teacher, Alan Rosenberger, Brownstown Middle School social studies teacher, and Russell Scott, seventh grade baseball coach. I think throughout the evening, the presentations that we've had give the Board of Education some degree of understanding of where the work's been focused here in the school district over the last couple months here of summer. Brownstown Middle School will be ready for the start of school year. We can't lose sight of the extensive renovations and updates that took place in that building over the course of the summer. As Mr. Roberts indicated, we're making every effort to have, and we will have every professional position. We will have somebody in place by the start of the school year, and we'll certainly keep you notified of where we're at on that, and continue to make every effort to get the support staff positions filled to the best of our ability. Thank you to the Board of Education for your continued support in the safety of our students and our staff, with your voiced support for an additional liaison officer that I will continue to work with Brownstown Township on. And it's going to be a busy 2 weeks with enrollments. It always is. I would say it's going to be a busy 3 weeks because they generally go pretty strong up until the first Friday of the school year. But we will continue to do everything we can to get the students where they need to be. With that, thank you for all your support this evening.
Wonderful, thank you. So moving on to item number 8 is the hearing of the public. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to address the Board of Education on topics not on the agenda, the comment cards are by Mr. Belcher and should be provided to Mrs. Abear. We don't have any, thank you. So I'll open it up for board member comments.
So I'd just like to give a quick shout out to one of our sophomores today, Addie Rushlow, who made a hole-in-one during our jamboree, the golf jamboree today. First lady team member to hit a hole-in-one for WHS. So congratulations to Addie.
That's awesome.
And the team won the jamboree.
Anyone else? No. Okay. Yeah. So the only thing I have is thanks again for the the HR team and the whole administrative team. And then I want to thank the board too. Over the summer, it was mentioned that we met for Safety and Security Committee, and we've been doing some board professional development, and I know that's above and beyond board meetings and committee meetings, and I think it's great work we're doing. So thanks to everybody for your commitment for that. Okay, so if there is nothing else, we will adjourn at 7:15 p.m. Date and time of next meeting is Tuesday, September 13th at 5:30 p.m. Thank you.